One of the questions I get asked most often by other writers is,
What is the point of you?
do you need to be reprogrammed with a 1,000,000-volt cattle prod again? What question do you get asked most often?
Same one. What's the point of you?
One of the things a lot of writers struggle with is dialogue. Direct and indirect speech. I've actually met an author online who asked if they could write a book without including any dialogue in it. The answer to that is Another said she was going to change all the rules because she found it too complicated to follow the established protocols. Again, the answer is
Can you imagine if a musician decided that learning to play an instrument was too hard and just smashed themselves in the head with a broken teapot instead? What would that sound like?
pretty much all modern pop music.
That's a sign that you're getting old. You'll probably be dead by next Friday. Let's hope so anyway.
Agreed. Anyway, I decided to make a video explaining the rules in as simple a way as possible.
So simple that even an alcoholic, brain-damaged psychotic sociopath with violent delusions and a severe case of depression and self-loathing can understand.
You mean a writer? Yes.
Good luck. Only an idiot would want to make a video like that. Let's get this right out there from the outset. English is stupid. Once we accept that fact, everything else is a lot simpler. English is a mess of a language, but then look what kinds of people use it. Many of the grammar rules make about as much sense as Joe Biden.
America is a nation that can be defined in a single word. I was going to
Direct and indirect speech are no different. Direct speech isn't really direct because it's not delivered in the first person, directly from one person to another in the way you would probably expect. The reason it's called direct speech is because we're reporting directly what was spoken as an absolute quote. That's why we surround it in quotation marks, and that's where it gets its name. Indirect speech, sometimes confusingly called reported speech, is when we're not absolutely quoting what someone said, we're just passing on the information. Both are used commonly in writing for different effects. Direct speech is the one most people have trouble with. This is a direct quote, an absolutely accurate report of just exactly the words that were spoken. The rules for this are actually much simpler than people think.
It looks easy on television, mother.
In directed speech, the sentence will have the quote and a dialogue tag. The quote is contained within inverted commas, or quotation marks, and there will also be a dialogue tag, a short piece of text to let us know who is talking and how they're doing it. The quote must be surrounded by quotation marks.
"I like chocolate milk," said the child.
The quote usually requires a dialogue tag that tells us who said the thing that is being said.
The man said, "I don't have any chocolate milk."
The words inside the quotation marks must begin with a capital letter, no matter where it is in the sentence.
The girl said, "But I want chocolate milk."
The quotation must end in appropriate punctuation.
"I don't have any," the man said.
The dialogue tag does not need to begin with a capital letter if it happens after the quote.
"Get me some chocolate milk," the girl said angrily.
The quote can end with a question mark, an exclamation mark, or a comma. It does not end with a full stop unless it closes the whole sentence.
"Why can't you get it yourself?" the man asked.
Each new line of dialogue must be treated as a new paragraph, getting a sentence of its own. When a new character speaks, a new line must begin.
"I want you to do it," she said with a frown.
Once you've established who is talking, you do not have to add dialogue tags, so long as the audience can follow who is speaking.
"I hate being a parent."
Direct speech is used when one character is talking to another. It's a way to pass information between them, but really is used to inform the audience of what's happening or has been happening. When writing, we must follow the rule of showing the audience the actions that take place, rather than telling them that actions have taken place. This is why we use dialogue. If we need to explain something, we will often have one character talking about it to another. This informs the audience in a quick, simple and convenient way. We should only use this for minor actions. Events of great importance that drive the plot should be shown properly by having the character experience them for themselves, so the audience can see it take place. The biggest area of confusion with direct speech is the punctuation. Words within the inverted commas, or quotation marks, can end 4 different ways. They can close with a comma, a full stop, a question mark, or an exclamation mark. They close with a comma if there would normally be a full stop, but the dialogue tag comes afterwards.
Why is everything so difficult?
I no longer want to talk about chocolate milk, he said.
They close with a full stop if the quote comes after the dialogue tag and closes the entire sentence.
She said, "I am also bored of chocolate milk."
Notice that in sentences with the dialogue tag at the beginning, there is a comma after the tag. They stop with a question mark if the quote aims to ask a question. In this way, it makes no difference if the dialogue tag is before or after the quote.
"Why do you keep talking about chocolate milk?" she asked. She asked, "Why don't you talk about strawberry milk instead?"
The same rules as with a question mark apply to the use of exclamation marks.
I'm sick of talking about chocolate milk, he said firmly.
She frowned and said, "Well, you're the one who keeps going on about it."
So when we have a sentence that includes a quote and uses direct speech, we have to consider the whole sentence as one continuous thing. That's why the dialogue inside the quotation marks ends with a comma and not a full stop if the tag comes afterwards. We can't close with a full stop, even though the quote has ended, because the sentence hasn't. We make an exception for both question and exclamation marks because we don't really have a choice. But, when we see them, we understand that the sentence continues beyond the quote. We normally use the word, said, to tell the audience who is speaking. Most people don't really see the word, they just understand it almost like a piece of punctuation. It's a good idea to vary it up slightly so the audience doesn't get bored of reading the same thing over and over, but don't vary it too much or your writing will look unprofessional. There's a balance to be found. Also, don't use the exclamation mark too often. It's a powerful way to draw attention to the sentence, but if you use it a lot, then it loses its importance.
I think I understand.
Indirect speech, or reported speech, is when someone tells another person something that was said. They don't directly quote it, they just say that this happened. Because this isn't a direct quote, it's not usually as reliable. We don't expect that the person saying it is getting the words absolutely and completely correct, instead we're assuming that they're simply passing on the tone of the message. For indirect speech, we don't use quotation marks at all, and we don't need to. We don't put the same value to the information and we don't hold it to the same standard. Generally, we must tell the reader who is saying the thing and what thing it is that they're saying. This sentence, without quotation marks, would be less important and we wouldn't imagine it happening in real time, as if we were seeing it for ourselves.
John said that his daughter told him she wanted chocolate milk.
Again, once we know who is speaking, we can remove the references to the person who is talking and just report the information.
She said that she liked chocolate milk.
The same is true with questions and statements. We would use a sentence like this if we didn't want the audience to focus on it. This would generally be something going on in the background while something more important was happening that we wanted to focus on.
She asked if she could have chocolate milk.
It is possible to mix direct and indirect speech by having a direct quote of a person speaking about what someone else said.
She asked me if she could have chocolate milk and I told her I didn't have any, the man told his wife.
In this example, the direct quote contains an example of indirect speech. It is, however, direct speech, since it contains a quote that is surrounded by inverted commas. The indirect speech is simply contained within. And that's pretty much all there is to it. With a bit of practice, this is so easy that even Stephen King can do it, and he looks like he smells of urine and wet dog fur. And remember that the best way to learn how this works is simply to read, and then the rules will be unconsciously set up in your own head and you won't have to watch videos on YouTube of an angry artificial intelligence machine telling you how to do things that have been mastered by romance novelists. If you still need help, we also have a completely free book about writing novels on edgeverse.org, and a whole chapter is devoted entirely to dialogue. It was written by Seth Godwin, and that's a name you can trust.